As people start to think about leaving Mormonism, they're not really usually sure about what the alternatives might be because as Latter-day Saints, we didn't really understand the rest of the Christian world or other spiritual options. We just had the one true church. And so we just want to make sure that someone, if you're thinking about that journey or just maybe taking a few first steps on that journey, that there's some things that you need to understand about the rest of the world that will help you maybe make better choices as you move forward on the journey. So let's talk about some things that we really feel like people maybe need to understand as they start their way out. Where would you start? What would be the first thing that you'd say that people really need to understand?
Well, they need to get an understanding that the Bible can be trusted. I think that's probably the foundation, and where to start. And because within Mormonism, at least I did. I didn't have a real good trust in the Bible. We'd pick verses here or there to kind of use and interpret, and that would fit Mormon doctrine, but never really dug into the Bible and understood what the true message and the true gospel of the Bible really was from start to finish, the whole story from the Old Testament leading up to Jesus and and the second coming, and so I think that's a huge place to really start, that you can put your faith and trust in the Bible.
Yeah, that's true, because we were taught the Bible has been corrupted.
Yeah.
That a lot of important things were taken out of it, and we can't really trust it. It's just a second tier in the standard works. And so coming out of Mormonism, that's a great starting point. It's really realizing, hey, the Bible has, a message, and it really can be trusted. That's a great point. I think another thing that maybe people need to understand is that God is really real apart from or outside of Mormonism. So, what do you think? Sometimes people just, reject the whole idea of God because they're rejecting the Mormon church. So how does that work? How have you seen that in your experience?
Right, it's really sad, and what happened to me, I think, happens to a lot of former Mormons as they come out of Mormonism, as they find the truth. You're so programmed into thinking that the LDS is the only church, and so
right.
you like, again, for me, went into a period of atheism almost, where because if the LDS God isn't real, it can't be a real
right.
God out there.
That's a great point.
And but what I've luckily by the grace of God have come to find out is actually God is more real than even in the LDS. The LDS God, because you come to understand that Jesus is God, and you, at least for me, again, develop more of a relationship with God. That becomes the focus. Jesus becomes the focus, and that's it. Just building that relationship. There's really nothing else outside of that. Nothing to do with the church, anything. I mean, that is your focus. So God does definitely become more real.
That's a great point. I love how you put that, because in the LDS church, that's our only really way of knowing God, is it's all wrapped up in the church. But you realize that there's so much more of God out there to know than just what we were presented within the framework of Mormonism.
Yeah,
that's a great point. So there's a lot to discover and a lot to grow as you get into a personal relationship with God on totally different terms. Kind of related to that is, in Mormonism, we were kind of taught that Mormonism is the one true church. Everybody else out there is apostate or at least confused. So, what encouragement could you give to someone leaving Mormonism about kind of the church landscape out there?
Right, and that a whole new world was opened up to me as I came into what I call true Christianity, biblical Christianity. That I had no idea it was even there, and live in St. George, Utah, and I think it's true with most towns in most towns in Utah, but especially in St. George, I had no idea how many different biblical churches there really were that were up and running in our town that could be trusted, that were
right.
had the right message, and And so just knowing that was, I wish I would have known that sooner, as a Mormon, that, I had just no clue that there were this many different options available for me as far as true Christianity within my own town that I lived in.
Yeah, that's really a good point. Because I think sometimes a person on this journey feels like they don't have any options.
Right.
If the one true church wasn't right, then what else is there? And so maybe they feel like their only option is atheism.
Right.
Or sometimes maybe just I got to stay in the Mormon church, even though I don't believe it. So it's great to know that there are great biblical churches, trustworthy churches that honor God, that really are helping people grow, and they're in every town, everywhere. And it's worth taking a look.
For sure. And then, there's lots of different denominations. That's probably a whole nother topic for another day, trying to get into all that. But just knowing that all these Christian churches really do, most of them have the right core message, and they all consider each other brothers and sisters in Christ. And even though they may be a different denomination, we're still part of the same Christian family. And I think that's a concept that most Mormons don't understand.
Yeah, that's a great point, and we will explore that in another topic. But that kind of reminds me of one more thing, that because we're looking at how the things that we experienced in the Mormon Church, we thought we were the only one. We thought that this is what God was like, and I think a lot of Mormons stay because there's a social framework. They're used to all the things that the church offers for families, and so that might make people hesitate about leaving or disconnecting. What is there for families outside of Mormonism? What have you discovered?
Yeah, and that was a big concern. I mean, I have 4 kids, and I'm married, and family is such a huge part of the LDS culture, and I think a lot of people really cling to that, and maybe even stay in it just for those reasons sometimes. Certain people, everybody has their own reasons, but that was a huge concern for us, and so that was really refreshing for us to discover that there is life after Mormonism for our family. And every church that I've seen has great youth programs, and there's summer camps that you can go to, and service projects. My oldest daughter went down in the streets of LA on a service project for a week, trying to work with the homeless and help the homeless. I mean, there's just all kinds of programs out there, and at this high school that I work at, we've started a Bible club at that school. There's just all kinds of options still out there for kids and families, and for like-minded people, and you can still have that social part of things. So
that's excellent. That's really, really helpful to know. So hopefully as you're watching this has been helpful for you to realize there's a whole world out there. There's a whole horizon that opens up before you. You don't have to just become an atheist, that as you consider leaving Mormonism, there's great opportunities out there for you, and we hope that you'll have the chance to explore some of those along your journey. Thanks for watching today.